I love Pokemon. My first ever Pokemon game was Pokemon Pro when I was like 6 years old. Funny story, I was so young and didn't know the concept of reading, so I would just run around the map without actively knowing where I needed to be. And I would just end up there eventually. I think I started with Turtwig, made it all the way to the Pokemon League, and lost so many times. I restarted, but this time with Piplup, made it all the way to Cynthia, lost too many times, then restarted. I then chose Chimchar, made it to the Pokemon League, and then beat Cynthia, all while I didn't know the concept of understanding what I was reading. But I had tons of fun, or else I wouldn't have been playing it. My next Pokemon game was Pokemon Black when it was released, and that was the most time I put into a single Pokemon game. And then obviously from there, I played Fire Red, Emerald, Y, Platinum, Soul Silver, Omega Ruby, Sword, Ultra Moon, and Violet, roughly in that order, at least in terms of first clears. I am a devoted Pokemon fanboy, and I will admit, the recent Pokemon game, Pokemon Scarlet Violet, was terrible, and I still ate that game up even though I knew it came out of the sewers. In fact, in terms of quality and enjoyment from Pokemon, it's been downhill starting from X and Y. X and Y weren't as bad as Scarlet and Violet, but it was definitely a flawed game. And now, with Scarlet and Violet, they actually released a game in a broken state. And it still is to this day. Textures rendering oddly, falling into the ground, crashes, and the other week I saw someone saying that they had a shiny Pokemon spawn in the wall. It started with design choices that weren't that good, and now it's just a broken mess to where it's hard to even play the game. I usually play Pokemon games on the Switch in handheld mode, so I was just like looking at a tiny screen. But then when I decided to stream myself playing and hooked it up to my PC monitor, I was in shock at just how gross the environment is. Paldea is just disgustingly horrible. The DLC eras are slightly better, but come on, what are we doing? Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Breath of the Wild look so much better than this, and it's also on the Switch. Game Freak and Nintendo really just need to sit down and actually take the approach that this next mainline Pokemon game is our last ever game, so we need to go all out. Sakurai, the maker of Smash Bros, had this mindset with his series, and each game is made with so much care and attention to detail, it's amazing. Pokemon needs to do this. What will it take to make Pokemon fans to be proud of the franchise? If I were in charge of the direction of the next and possibly the last Pokemon game ever, I would do this. The difficulty needs to be higher. And I don't just mean increasing levels, because that's just too easy and solves the problem in the worst way possible. Can we go back to how gyms were before? The gyms had style, they were thematic, they were cool. Let's bring that back. We've had like 9 generations of set of 8 gyms, so surely we have to change something up, right? How about we do dual type gyms? The first gym could be like a rock flying gym or a fighting electric gym. Think about the gym designs, the gym leader designs, or even the team compositions. It allows rooms for creativity and also promotes a slightly more balanced team comps. Because one strategy to go up against someone like Lieutenant Surge in Fire Red is a team full of Diglets. That's kinda boring, and that's not really challenging, is it? If Lieutenant Surge was a water electric gym, that would at least make me a bit nervous. The same problem is also consistent with the Elite Four. Granted, you do have to beat 4 different types in one go. However, you can still crutch one Pokemon to solo the whole team. As long as you know the type, the Elite Four is very trivial. If we're doing a dual type gym, we start running out of available types for the Elite Four. So, what can we use instead? We can start having the Elite Four use a gimmick team. Maybe one member just loves the sun, so they have a team centered around Sunny Day. Very gimmicky, but you could easily dismantle it by putting up your own weather effect, or just having a good balanced comp. And to promote repeated attempts, let's start healing your party in between fights. No need to waste money to buy items to heal your Pokemon in between fights. I don't think the Elite Four members love going up against trainers that have a battered and bruised Charizard. I believe this was introduced in X and Y, where your Pokemon's move would now display their effectiveness against the opponent. I think it should adopt how Persona does it, to where you use, let's say, a water type on a fire type. It's super effective, and now that move type will display super effective against that particular Pokemon. And then obviously when you catch the Pokemon, the weaknesses are revealed. But especially towards Pokemon that you haven't caught yet, I think it's more intuitive to slowly keep track of Pokemon's weaknesses. Something's been bugging me with the Indigo Disc DLC. All of a sudden, all these legendary Pokemon just show up and want a cookie? They are in the most random and uninspiring areas, and it's just too easy to catch. Can there at least be some sort of barrier in catching these legendaries? I don't expect it to have a storyline and build up to like the box cover legendary, but if I could catch a Mewtwo, can I battle Giovanni first to then have a chance to catch Mewtwo? It just feels lazy to me that you just need a cookie to have a chance to catch something like Zekrom or Groudon, and you find a Kyogre, a mythical Pokemon said to have swelled the seas with the rain and tidal waves, was just chilling on some beach. What? I can't be the only one bothered by that. A boss version of some legendaries would be cool, similar to a raid where you have to beat them in order to catch them, but it would feel more rewarding. As of right now, it's really just an endurance test, and it's just stale right now. Wouldn't it be cool to see other Pokemon trainers as you go on your journey? No, not the NPCs, like actual online Pokemon trainers. Seeing other people trying to catch a Pokemon or just trying to get through an area will make it feel like a great role-playing experience. You could do so much with this. You can challenge people, trade, or even emote with them with just a random trainer you see. Maybe not text chat, for obvious reasons. If you fight a wild Pokemon while near someone else, you can pull that trainer into the wild or trainer battle that you're engaged with. It won't be a mandatory online connection, but it's something you can opt out of and just have a private world instead. And since we're going for more of an online presence, we could reintroduce the Grand Underground or Secret Bases. Just another fun side activity players can do to show off their creative side in creating cool rooms with decorations. Remember, the more options, the more fun online activities to do, the higher the player retention rate is, and more money for Nintendo, since you would have to subscribe to the online membership. For the love of God, can we please have a proper quest log? How can you have an open world like Paldea and not have side quests? Yeah, sure, there's Perrin's side quest and the Mochi or whatever, I haven't done it yet, but it's hard to remember these things when I resume playing after maybe like a week break from the game. One of my complaints about Elden Ring was the lack of a quest log, so it made it harder to remember certain quest lines when taking a break. Granted, Elden Ring is for what you call a hardcore gamer, so you can expect some things to not hold your hands, but for Pokemon, this is unacceptable. I doubt an 8-year-old will remember what Perrin wants you to do, let alone know where she is, since there are no map markers to tell you where she is. That, plus the implementation of BBQs, it's an actual joke. It's their lame excuse for making side quests without a proper implementation of a quest log. With a quest log, you can have more purpose and meaning in certain towns and be able to insert new quest lines in potential updates rather than doing a bunch of workarounds, just like what they did with the BBQs. Did we forget how cool our clothing was? It was introduced in X and Y and continued onwards, and I guess you could say Scarlet and Violet kept doing it, but come on, why does it feel like a huge downgrade? We want drip. We want to show off our clothing. We want to spend our in-game credits on shirts instead of potions for my close to dying Charmander, because drip is more important. Nobody likes school uniforms. So why did Game Freak think forcing people into school uniforms was a great idea? Yeah, so just bring back the drip. Especially if we're going into a more online-oriented goal, we want to show off, and having an array of outfits is another way to express creativity. Indigo Disc kind of started this, which I'm glad they did, was to customize the personality of your trainer, and one way they did it was by customizing how you throw your Pokeball. Obviously, the way they presented it and the amount aren't quite there yet, but it's a good start. And honestly, something that should have been in the base game. But it's better than nothing. I think they could also add like custom idle poses or even animated intros like what you see when you start battling against gym leaders. This is just my personal opinion, and I know some people will disagree, but I hate Paldea as a region. Everything outside of Area Zero was so boring and unimaginative. There is no cohesiveness between the different biomes, and it just feels unintuitive. I honestly think that Fortnite maps have more cohesiveness between the biomes, and Fortnite maps are pretty messy as it is. There are roads in Paldea, but I don't think people even try to follow them because the roads are there just to be roads. Breath of the Wild is also an open world, it's kind of similar to Paldea. It has roads that you don't necessarily have to use, but I find myself using those roads a lot more than the one in Paldea. In fact, I don't think I even use the roads at all, even in Kitakami, And the terrarium, I don't think it even has roads, but whatever. The towns might as well not exist. I don't remember any of the names because there's no clear distinction in what you can do in these towns, except for that one town where you could change the terror type in that one restaurant. Yeah, you can't even go inside most buildings, so they're just there as a useless giant Lego block for just the sake of being there. It's pretty bad. Area 0, however, is really good, and that should be something that we should be aiming for. Let's get rid of the pure open worlds. Let's instead start making some cool looking zones similar to Area 0. If we're using Area 0 as an example, we can split it into 2 zones, above ground and underground. Each of them is expansive, covers a singular theme / biome. They are very distinct, very diverse. There are roads that you can actually follow, but there are still areas off the beaten road that you can explore. But you are still being somewhat guided through the road. Imagine if we had Area 0 for each biome. Game Freak could cook up some cool looking zones and be very fun to explore, just like Area 0. Having zones will make it a lot easier to incorporate online play rather than doing one big world such as Paldea. And can we also be able to enter more buildings? It just feels kind of weird that the school is like one of the only places you can go inside of. And since we're continuing the theme of treating this as our last Pokemon game, we're going to have to make this game last a while, and one way to do this is through meaningful post-game content. Especially now that we are also pushing for more online play, we have to have different options for people to want to play with friends. This isn't a live service, and honestly, Pokemon doesn't need to be a live service game, but we just need to have something like Black 2 White 2 post-game content, where there are a lot of things to do. For the solo single player experience, let's make sure we get a battle tower. It is criminal that Scarlet Violet was shipped without a battle tower equivalent, and a massacre that the DLC that was supposedly focused around Pokemon battles didn't have a battle tower. How does that work? And then for bigger parties, we'll bring back the battle subways with more of an emphasis on double battles and triple battles with and without friends. I mentioned bringing back features such as battle towers, battle subways, Grand Underground, and secret bases. But we should also get some cool new modes. Roguelike games are currently in season right now, and having some sort of minigame like that would be very cool. And I'm not talking about like Mochi chasing or whatever disaster that was. I'm talking about you starting off with a Magikarp, you clear the room, you get slightly better Pokemon, you go on to the next room, and the loop repeats until you wipe out. All fainted Pokemon stay fainted, and you can only level Pokemon up with rare candies that you earn for defeating Pokemon trainers. Something cool, something different, is something that is needed for post-game content. Or make this into a DLC feature, I don't know. But we need something cool for us to keep playing after we become a Pokemon champion. And some other things that don't really fit into any of the aforementioned categories. One is having past gym leader / Elite Four members appear and can be challenged in a Pokemon battle. Similar to how you can challenge Cynthia in Pokemon Black and White at Undella Bay, everyone loves seeing their favorite Pokemon characters from past games appear in just about anything. So it would be nice to see more appearances, just like how they did it with Cynthia. Seasonal events would also be nice. It doesn't need to be like what you see in live service games like Fortnite, where it's like different every year, but more closely to Terraria, where it is the same event every year during a certain time slot. Especially if it's a game to play with friends, celebrating Christmas in-game during Christmas with a bunch of Christmas decorations would be very nice. Locking past Pokemon behind DLC to me is an actual crime. Are we really going to be putting a price tag on Geodude? 1. All Pokemon should already be coded in, with sprites, data, animations, and everything. But if we are going to do a staggered release, then make them free for any players to go and catch themselves without needing to pay for a DLC. I get that people can technically still get them through trading, but I think it's stupid the lengths that you have to go to in order to get Geodude, who debuted in 1996. As I said before, the recent Pokemon games in the past decade have not blown anyone's mind, and they were honestly lackluster. A franchise that has seasons of animes and movies and trailers and stuff, but for some reason refuses to even try to get their own mainline series to be voice acted, which for something as big as ambitious as Pokemon, and is kind of an industry norm to have voice acted characters, yeah. They need to change their mindset of constantly releasing some half-baked Pokemon games and actually sit down and make a Pokemon game that could potentially be their last. But what does that take? For starters, let's actually give time to properly make a Pokemon game on a grand scale. Let's learn from our mistakes from Scarlet Violet in our attempts to make an open world game. Let's have a motto like friendships with Pokemon and trainers to push the online features. Let's get a lot of activities to do either by ourselves, with our friends, or just random people online. The world of Pokemon should not only be filled with Pokemon, but with other Pokemon trainers around the world. Let's show off ourselves to the world, whether it's catching them all, being the very best, having the biggest space, or just being very stylish. Let's be ambitious and give another reason for Pokemon fans to be proud of for being fans through all these years. So then, I ask the question once again. What will it take to make Pokemon fans be proud of the franchise? Thank you for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe to this video if you like this type of content, and if you have any suggestions for any game that you want me to play, you can leave a comment down below or come join the Discord in the link below that I'm active in. See you guys later.